Hello YouTube! I wish everyone a very happy new year and I hope that all of you had a great new year celebration. I hope 2020 will be a great year for all of us and also for the Elder Scrolls, as I have some hope. Some hope we'll get something good this year. But not Elder Scrolls 6, unfortunately. That said, what better way to kick off the year than by talking about an often forgotten piece of lore. The story of how Morrowind got rid of most of their annoying cliff racers. This is a story of Saint Jiub the Eradicator. Back in the year 427 of the Third Era, the year the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind plays in, Morrowind was plagued by a fearsome and, well, just very annoying creature, the Cliff Racer. Many of us who have played Morrowind get terrible flashbacks at this very sound. And sometime after the year 427 of the Third Era, there was one man who decided it was just enough, that every last Cliff Racer would need to be eradicated. That man was Saint Jiub the Eradicator. Saint Jiub the Magnificent, Eradicator of the Winged Menace. And today I'm gonna tell you his story. The story of Saint Jiub the Magnificent began somewhere in Morrowind. We don't know exactly how the early years of his life played out, other than that at some point he contracted a very bad skooma addiction. In order to then pay for the skooma and to fuel his addiction, he turned towards crime and over time became a freelance assassin that just paid best. He killed people for cash and the cash he then used to pay for more skooma. However, one day things went completely wrong. He had been ordered to assassinate a high-ranking House Redoran official. However, it turned out that this assassination was a trap for him, as a Morag assassin had the same target and called the guards on Jiub after the assassin from the Morag had already killed the target, thereby covering his own ass and dumping Jiub in the hands of the guards. Jiub was then arrested and tried for murder and imprisoned. At some point during his imprisonment he was transported on a small transport ship. How exactly he ended up on that ship or why, we don't know, but in a chance encounter it just so happened to be the same ship that the Nerevarine, the player character from Morrowind, was being transported on in his way to Morrowind. On this ship, Jiub will be the first NPC that the players will encounter during their Morrowind playthrough, and many people fondly remember his first words telling you that not even last night's storm could wake you during your dreams. Just like the Nerevarine, he was at some point released out of custody not much later, and Jiub would simply wander around for a bit. During this time of wandering, he decided that he wasn't going to return to his skooma-addicted assassin's life. Instead, he wanted to give something back to the people of Morrowind for all the murders that he did back in his dark days. So he decided he would undertake a great mission, something that would truly help the people. He would eradicate every single cliff racer in existence to free the people of Morrowind from this menace. He started small, only him and his weapons on a silt strider, traveling across Vardenfell killing every cliff racer he found. At first it didn't have much impact, but it took him years and years. But at some point he actually started to make a difference, and presumably he had killed thousands of cliff racers by then. Until one day he was chasing a cliff racer which led him to a massive colony of cliff racers. The cliff racer had attempted to trap him and hundreds of cliff racers appeared in the sky to kill Jiub. According to his own autobiography, he then got off his silt strider, told the poor beast to go off, and then stood on the rocks and fought for 2 days straight with the ferocious monsters until only a pile of cliff racer corpses and he himself were left. He then describes blacking out from exhaustion and then waking up in the same chamber where Lord Vivec of the Tribunal resided. He assumed that Vivec wanted to punish him for his reckless actions, but instead he said that Vivec saw something in him and recognized him as saint for eradicating so many cliff racers for the people of Morrowind. After this he was celebrated a hero by the people of Morrowind and spent several more years eradicating more cliff racers until nearly all of the creatures were dead and the threat of them to the people of Morrowind had been reduced to near zero. After his victory over the creatures, he was forever recorded in Morrowind's history as a hero to the Dunmer people, as saint of the old and new tribunal, as someone who truly helped the people. At least that's what he himself says, but we have some merit to believe that. After his many glorious deeds, he decided to move somewhere quieter to write his memoirs in the latter years of his life. He bought a small house in the city of Kvatch in Cyrodiil, where he started working on his 26-volume memoirs, Saint Jiub's Opus. He was almost done with the first volume when the Oblivion Crisis unfortunately broke out and Kvatch was overrun by the Daedra, the same Daedra that we face in Oblivion. The Daedra then invaded his home and soul-trapped him in a black soul gem. His soul was then transported to the Soul Cairn and sent to the Ideal Masters, thus ending the story of Saint Jiub on Tamriel. The great Saint Jiub, now no longer on Tamriel, wandered around the Soul Cairn for a little over 200 years, until he encountered the Dragonborn there, who entered the Soul Cairn during the Dawnguard questline. The Dragonborn can then speak to Jiub and reveal the truth to Jiub that he was in fact in the Soul Cairn at that point and that there's no method of escape, as Jiub previously had thought that he was simply imprisoned by Dremora and that he would be freed at some point. Saint Jiub then panicked when he heard that the people of Tamriel no longer really remembered him, and he asked the Dragonborn to help restore the first volume of his opus and bring it to Tamriel so that his deeds would truly never be forgotten. You can then help him restore the first part of his opus, thereby getting the book and a unique amulet. All in all, I think that the story of Saint Jiub is pretty cool and also pretty funny. Bethesda really decided to take a pretty insignificant character in Morrowind and make him an actual post-game hero, and even got the original voice actor back for Dawnguard. Because even if we don't know the full truth to his story, because we only get accounts from himself, we do know that he was known for killing many cliff racers, as in Oblivion we can overhear a conversation by two NPCs mentioning that Saint Jiub, so he was an actual saint, eradicated a lot of cliff racers in Morrowind. Unfortunately for his legacy, however, he did not succeed in making the cliff racers fully extinct, and only succeeded in killing a significant portion of them, or at least enough to relieve the citizens of Morrowind for several years. As we know that by the 4th era 2nd century, cliff racers still existed in Morrowind, as Mjol the Lionless mentions hunting them at some point. This probably means that the few cliff racers who remained after Saint Jiub's massacre have restored the species. Perhaps they are not as common as they were before, but they still exist by this time, meaning that those of us who live to see the Elder Scrolls one day return to Morrowind, at some point will still hear that traumatizing sound. That said, this was the story of Saint Jiub. Before I end this video, I wish to thank my top patrons, Mr. Bernardo Binda, Mr. Metalloid1v1, Mr. Christmas, Mr. Gabriel Binda, Mr. Hayden Barnes and Mr. Para. These guys, along with the others on screen, make my weekly lore videos possible, and thus I'm very thankful to them. And now a little update on last week's Christmas giveaway. It was won by Alice O'Farrell. She was selected by my random number generator, so congratulations to her for winning. I will contact the winner personally and handle the prize shipping. Thanks to everybody who entered the giveaway and took the time to fill out the channel feedback form. I got some really useful responses out of them, so thank you very, very much. And let's make 2020 a great year with all that feedback. And with that behind us, I hope that you liked the video. Give it a like if you did. Maybe consider subscribing to, see the video next week. And let's say, I'll see you next week on Thursday in a new Elder Scrolls lore video. Bye bye.